another episode of King Jing Things. I am King Jing. He is Mike Barnett, and today we are bringing you a WNBA preview. It's a little bit different for y'all. It's probably, it's also a little bit different for us as well. We admittedly do not follow the WNBA as well as we could, and we decided this offseason, hey, we're going to change things around a little bit. We're going to dive into the WNBA. We're going to keep up with it. We're going to keep up with the storylines, the transactions, everything about the WNBA. And hopefully we get a couple new viewers just based off the new content. We are, I guess we can both say that we're Atlanta Dream fans just because we're located here in Atlanta. So we're definitely going to probably be focusing a little bit more on them, or at least having more of a homerism sort of viewpoint of the Atlanta Dream. So just look out for that. We will continue to be biased in our takes as I feel like we have been, since we've been doing this pod. Mike, do you have any background in the WNBA, or have you just started sort of paying a little bit more attention over the last couple years?
I mean, when it gets to that time of the year where it's just baseball and the WNBA, and knowing myself that I don't give a shit about baseball between May and September, I actually would say I've watched a few WNBA games just because I'd rather watch that than baseball. But I don't think I've ever sat down and paid attention to a whole season. I could probably name a bunch of players that play or have played in the past, but other than that, I've never really dove in. And one thing, you didn't mention, but I'm glad we're doing fantasy WNBA basketball this year, because I think, like any sport, at least for somebody like me, anytime I do fantasy of a sport, I'm much more intrigued to watch. So regardless of if it's a sport that I normally like, if you give me a reason to like it or something that I have to follow, I will. So I'm excited to do that. As you said, we are going to be dream homers, because I think realistically, and it's the same thing that happens in the NBA with the Hawks, like Atlanta is a giant city in the United States and should be more popular than it is when it comes to basketball. And the fact that it's not makes no sense. Why it's not looked at as a big market makes no sense. So we're going to single-handedly help the Dream hopefully become a bigger market and, quite frankly, the greatest WNBA franchise in history over the next, well, our lifetime, let's say.
I'm with it. The Dream have definitely made some pretty big moves in my eyes. Obviously we don't know too much about it, but I recognize both of these names. So I feel like that means something. But just for today, I figured we'd go over some of the big free agency moves that happened over this offseason, some of the big trades that happened that is sort of going to reshape how this league looks. We can go into odds on who's going to end up winning the MVP. And I figured we'd go ahead and finish with the odds in the WNBA finals, and then why not just throw a winner out there? It doesn't necessarily have to be the top team. This is just more for fun. And then as the season progresses, it starts on the 16th. As the season progresses, we will give you more news about what's happening in the league. But we figured we might just go ahead and give like a simple overview of what you may have missed if you haven't watched the NBA or the WNBA in the past couple years. So Mike, are there any big like free agency moves that sort of stood out to you coming into the season?
Well, I think first, since we said we're going to be Dream homers, we need to start with the Dream realistically. Let's start with Brittany Griner coming to Atlanta. She's a 10-time All-Star. She's shot in 8 of her seasons 55% or better, which is unreal for any player in playing a sport. That's like somebody batting 400 over and over and over again in baseball, which is almost seems impossible. She's been a star for a long time. We've always known about her. We've known things she's done on the court, and we know things she's done off the court, unfortunately. But this is one thing that the Atlanta Dream needed. Ryan Howard is one of the best players in the WNBA. She's fantastic in the backcourt, and the Dream actually have a very good backcourt and can do a lot of really great things around the perimeter. But where they really struggled last year and where they almost did not even make the playoffs was the fact that they had nobody inside to spread the floor. Nobody even inside to even give the ball to realistically to make baskets, and that really hurt the Dream in the long run and why there was an easy first round exit for them. They didn't even win a game in the playoffs, and it's kind of been that as a trend for a little while with the Dream. So whether or not this is, let me put it like this: this was not a long term play. She's on a 1 year contract. This is more of a, hey, is this the right move for us? And is this what we're missing on the team? Because if it proves to be, and they can make any kind of run, and I've already told you my hot take with the Dream is I think they'll make a run in the playoffs. Do I think they're going to win the championship? I guess you'll have to find out later in the podcast, but that's really what I know. And I think it was a great pickup from them to start.
For sure. We saw some weird movement because the Suns were in the playoffs last year, you know. So it's just weird that you saw a complete dismantling of their roster after a playoff run. We also ended up getting their center, Brianna Jones, coming over to the Atlanta Dream. She's a power forward and a center, you know. I feel like having Griner and Jones both hopping over, and you know, we have at least a formidable starting lineup with the two of them, Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. You know, so I think this bodes well for the Atlanta Dream going forward. And then the other big free agency move that we saw was DeWanna Bonner ended up signing with the Indiana Fever, and you know that obviously just helps put more talent around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. I feel like the Fever sort of understand that they have struck gold with the amount of talent that they have around, you know, just with Caitlin Clark and Boston. So they went out and got a couple big pieces, but I do believe going out and getting a six-time All-Star in DeWanna Bonner is definitely one of those moves that will help, you know, push the Fever a little bit further and help their playoff run this year.
She's going to end up being a huge piece, and realistically, she's somebody Caitlin Clark did not want to play against again. Now they're playing on the same team, and that's only going to bode well for them. And, you know, she's going to bring, again, being able to stretch the floor and help Caitlin Clark in that aspect. Caitlin Clark, it took her about half of the season last year to finally get up to speed on what the WNBA brings because as much as I have not watched, I've watched enough and then going back and watching games from last season before we did this and watching highlights. The speed from college basketball to the WNBA is crazy different. And I think it's the same in the NBA, right? Like when you get the best players on the floor, you're going to see that difference. I think we saw it for the first time actually on Friday with Paige Buchers when she was playing in her preseason game for the first time. This was the first time on a basketball court she could not control the speed of the game like she could in college. And she got to see it for the first time. She actually had a pretty good preseason debut, in my opinion, but it's going to be a much different game. And that's why Caitlin Clark ended up fitting as well, because once she caught up to the speed, what made up for the speed was the fact that she could still score baskets. And then when she was able to catch up with the rest of her game, you saw her immediately starting to be successful. So I think DeWanna Bonner is going to be huge in that aspect of, again, just opening Caitlin Clark up to do more in her sophomore season of the WNBA. And I'm really excited to see what they're able to do.
I feel like this is definitely going to help, you know, obviously capitalize on what Caitlin Clark brings to the table, not only for the Indiana Fever, but also for the WNBA, you know, across the board. Obviously, we saw a sharp jump in terms of interest once Caitlin Clark entered the league. And I do believe this will start a little renaissance of people actually paying attention to the WNBA and them taking that next step forward into becoming one of the big sports in the United States. We can go ahead and transition into some of the other moves of the offseason, which came from trades. I did mention a little bit earlier that the Suns just seemed to blow it up out of nowhere, especially after that title run last year. But Power forward Alyssa Thomas was traded from the Suns to the Phoenix Mercury. You're talking about a five-time All-Star. You're talking about a six-time All-Defensive team now going to the Mercury. And this was a part of a bigger trade, which involved the Dallas Wings completing a sign-in trade to send Sato Sabali to the Mercury as well. So we are sort of seeing a new big three emerge with Thomas Sabali and Kaylee Cooper over there. Or I'm sorry, Kaylee Copper.
I'm super excited to see what they're able to do because when you think about their team last year, you had Griner, who's obviously on the Dream today. You had Diana Taurasi, who finally retired, that played one of the longest careers, and well, maybe the longest career in WNBA history, and put up numbers for a really long time. But this realistically puts the Mercury back into real playoff contention, unfortunately. From not When I say unfortunately, I mean I feel bad saying that about Griner and Taurasi, but it was time for them to move on. It was time for them to start over. And Alyssa Thomas might be the best pickup in the league, realistically. I want to be a homer and say it was Griner, but Alyssa Thomas is just so unbelievable. And why the Sun decided to blow it up, I'm not completely sure, but I think they were just getting to that point. I actually think, hot take, they might be the worst team in the league this year. If besides Golden State, I mean they're a new team, so I'm gonna not count them towards that. I think the Sun could be the 12th best team in the WNBA this year.
We'll end up covering that at the end of this pod when we go through and look at WNBA final odds. But another big trade that happened involved two really big names that I think we both knew, before doing a deep dive into this, and that was that point guard Kelsey Plum was traded to the Sparks. This is a former overall first overall pick. She's a two-time champion, three-time All-Star. Maybe hasn't lived up to the exact hype that we were given, when she first entered the league. But do you have any opinion on that? What does Kelsey Plum bring to the Los Angeles Sparks?
So, to what you just said, where you feel like she hasn't really lived up to the hype, I feel like she has been surrounded by greatness on every team that she's on, just playing in Las Vegas, realistically, right? Asia Wilson is the best player in the WNBA. It's not close. And anybody that argues Caitlin Clark is wrong. Asia Wilson is the best player in the WNBA for the last 3 or 4 years. Kelsey Plum is finally going to a team where it will, in my opinion, be her team. She will be running it from the front. Chelsea Gray was running the Las Vegas Aces most of the time, and she was really good at distributing. And, Kelsey Plum took over that role a little bit because she had just come back from injury and probably wasn't in the best shape, talking about Gray. But this is her coming into playing with De'Erica Hamby again, who she's won a championship with before. So she's reuniting there. And once Cameron Brink comes back in June, I don't know that she's going to be at 100%. She's coming off of that injury. I think she tore ACL. It's going to take some time for her to come back, but she's going to have people that she can hand the ball off to and just continue to show how much she can score. I expect Kelsey Plum to have a better season this season than she did last season. Are the Sparks going to make it to the top? We'll talk about it, but I think she's a huge pickup for them.
Absolutely. And then in that same trade, we have Jewel Lloyd, guard from Seattle, from the Seattle Storm. She goes to the Aces now. This is another former first overall pick out of Notre Dame, a two-time champion, a six-time All-Star. The Aces are already loaded. Does this do anything for the Aces, or do you still expect them to be at the top of the WNBA?
Realistically, with what I just said about Kelsey Plum and how she's gone to the Sparks, Jewel Lloyd fits into the Aces better than Kelsey Plum did. The Las Vegas Aces just got better by picking up Jewel Lloyd. She could be the number one player on any team, and now she's going to play with Asia Wilson, who again is the best player in the WNBA. And Jewel Lloyd actually led the league in scoring in 2023, so she can make shots. She's going to score. She's going to make a lot of points. This really, in my opinion, just propels the Aces from what they've always been over the last 5 years, championship contenders, to just being more of a championship contender once again.
Do you think this puts them over? Obviously the Fever have made a lot of moves this offseason. They're probably sitting here atop of the odds. Same thing with the Liberty. Everything that I've read and I've watched kind of make it seem that the Liberty are aiming to go back to back this year. Do you think this move sort of maybe changes those odds? Do you see them in a world where they might end up winning the WNBA Finals?
I absolutely do. I think this was the best move of the offseason completely. I think this makes the Aces, in my opinion, the genuine favorite to win the championship.
Well, we can actually go ahead and transition over into the favorites. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about MVP odds or championship odds?
Let's go MVP odds and then we'll go championship and we'll pick a finals too and then who we think's gonna win.
Alrighty, sounds good to me. So, actually, right here, I've got the WNBA MVP betting odds pulled up, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It sort of drops off down here. So I feel like the main six that you sort of want to look at is Sabali, Ionesca, Brianna Stewart, Fee Collier, Asia Wilson, and Caitlin Clark. And just by looking at the odds, it sort of seems like Asia Wilson and Caitlin Clark are the two gunning for it. And then you might have Nafisa Collier, competing there as well. All of them are the number one options on their team. I feel like that is where it hurts Brianna Stewart and Ionescu just because they are both on New York Liberty. It just makes it harder for you to stand out, if you're sharing the spotlight of your team like that. So, do any of these really stand out to you, or is there maybe a long shot that you see that could end up winning?
For me, I believe that looking at this list, uh, as close as Nafisa Collier is to the other two, I actually think she should be a little bit closer. She has taken a Minnesota Lynx team that nobody talked about last season, and if you go back and look, and no, they weren't really in the discussion for the first 20 games of a 40-game season. They were just another team that has arguably the best chemistry in the game, and go to the finals and you could argue they should have won the finals, or there was a foul on Stewie that seemed like a ghost foul, and then New York ended up winning. So if you go back and watch it, you'll see. But I think the fact that she is coming back with the same team, they really didn't make many moves, but they didn't need to. It's not like they got much older or anything like that. If she plays 10% better than she did last year, this could be a runaway award for her. That's how good she played last year and how important she is to that team. I think, Caitlin Clark and Asia Wilson are just going to unfortunately get we expect you to be great. So that could really hurt them later in the season. Whereas I feel like Collier is just, once again, just kind of riding in the back and being really smart. The other person I see, and we already talked about it, but you never know what Alyssa Thomas might do joining the Mercury. She could go play in that big three and just absolutely take over and show that it's her team. And then, of course, as a homer, I'm just going to say Ryan Howard's going to win it because I want her to. So
Yeah, why not? Those odds are looking at plus 8,000. Might as well sprinkle a little bit on there. I kind of it's very chalk, but I feel like it's Caitlin Clark's award. I feel like this is one of those awards that are really based off of the story that is being told throughout the season, and I just feel like the way that Caitlin Clark has sort of dominated the headlines since she entered the league, this is her year to win it. So I do. It's obviously a very chalk pick, but I'm going with Caitlin Clark here, plus 200.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that pick at all. But I also, I mean, like, just like we were talking about with Jewel Lloyd, like she could come in and take some of that production from Asia Wilson that actually keeps her from winning the award. And I think that DeWanna Bonner could do that to Caitlin Clark as well. I don't think Caitlin Clark cares about the MVP award. I think she just wants to win. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And we'll have to do like a mid-season review for sure, just so we could talk about it.
Hey man, if this works out, we're doing weekly podcasts about the WNBA.
I'd love to. I'll be watching.
And then we'll go ahead and finish off. I'll just keep the screen up here. It's the championship betting odds. We mentioned a little bit earlier there. We have a new team that has been added to the league, the Golden State Valkyries. They're down here at the bottom, plus 50,000. Basically, no way of them winning. Same thing with the Suns. They've got their new big three over there, but or no, I'm sorry, that was the Mercury. But yeah, the Suns, you mentioned a little bit earlier, have probably one of the best chances of being the worst team in the league, and Vegas seems to think so as well. We've got our Atlanta Dream up here, plus 4,000. Interesting odds. I was looking at our roster a little bit earlier, and I don't know. Just looking at it, I'm like, I feel like we have better odds than that. I would have expected to be maybe, if the long shot, maybe up here with the Mercury at like plus 1,600. But at the end of the day, it does seem like Vegas believes that we have four true winners, or contenders up here, and that is going to be the New York Liberty, who obviously won last year. Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever, Minnesota Lynx. They were in the finals last year as well. And then we've got the Las Vegas Aces, just a true powerhouse. So out of those top four teams, would you say the Aces you like the best out of all of them?
I think odds wise, your best bet is betting on the aces. I think you're going to find the most value in that. And, if I had to pick between those four, they're just the one that I don't know, feel something about it.
I don't hate that as well. Like you said, they've made some moves that, obviously you get a little bit of a better fit with Jewel Lloyd in there, opposed to Kelsey Plum. Um, but yeah, the Las Vegas Aces, the plus 380, probably a solid little spot there. I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on the Atlanta Dream. Just it helps you buy into the league, helps you care a little bit more. So, probably throw a little bit of cash on that.
Yeah, I would say that with the Dream specifically, like those are great odds. If Griner can just have one really good season with the Dream and they can spread the floor and Ryan Howard can be even better than she's been over the past couple years, you are looking at a much better team than I think plus 4,000 odds. That's not to say, I mean, that's good for us as people that want to bet on them, but it's going to be tough. But another this thing that's on that list, I actually am very surprised that the Chicago Sky are plus 5,500. I know people don't like Angel Reese, and you don't have to, uh, but they are a much better basketball team with the additions that they picked up, especially with Courtney Vandersloot, than they are being projected on that list. She's going to come in and really help have a backcourt in the first place because that was the thing that the Chicago Sky missed last year, which is why Angel Reese, I think, led the league in rebounds, but she got all of her own rebounds, which she's got to make more shots this year. That's just a fact. But the fact that they're going to have people in the backcourt and Van Lith is going to come in and have immediate rapport with Angel Reese. Some people are saying that they didn't play well together at LSU. They obviously did. They won a championship. So say what you want. I really think that's going to propel them to being better this year than they were last year. And I'm very shocked to see them down with the odds that they have.
And then, just to round us out, why not Rookie of the Year as well? Obviously, Paige Beckers are here at the top, but I want y'all to keep a lookout for Malanga. That is a true center in the WNBA. She can fucking dunk the ball.
Yep,
She,
there's going
I,
to be
sh
multiple this year. I'm projecting hot take. Multiple women dunk the ball this year in the WNBA.
you think Brittany Griner can still get up like that?
I think she'll get one, but I think there's other players that are gonna show that they can do it as well.
Well, guys, that's your WNBA preview. Probably wanted a little bit more for us, but like we said, we are pretty limited on our knowledge of what we've got right now. I would definitely say Mike's got a better understanding than I do, but hey, this is all a learning curve. It's all a learning experience. We're gonna put in the time and watching these games, reading what we can, watching what we can, and who knows? Maybe King Jing Things ends up being your place for WNBA news.
Why not? I see no reason why we can't make it happen. And my only other thing for the WNBA Rookie of the Years, Sonia Citron is going to win it plus 1,400. That's my pick. She is pro ready, arguably the best basketball player in the draft, coming from a pro team. I know Paige Beckers is Paige Beckers, but you heard it here first.
Remember this. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like what you saw, throw us a like, throw us a subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.